Hello, and welcome to Season 13, Episode 3 of the Cartridge Club's Game of the Month podcast, where we bring together members of the Cartridge Club community to discuss our community playthrough. If you're new to the club or are interested in participating in future months, please join our community Discord or follow us on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Cartridge Club NA. We love to see the hashtag Cartridge Club used whenever you talk about one of the games we've selected. Additionally, on behalf of the entire Cartridge Club community, I'd like to give a special thanks to our Patreon club backers, Joel Boyce, Kevin from Canadian Grooves, and Caleb J. Ross. To our backers and Patreon supporters, thank you. If you are interested in becoming a Patreon supporter for the Cartridge Club, please look into how to do so at patreon.com/Cartridge Club. All right, this month the action gets heated. Frenemies are everywhere, but there's still time for a drink and some bowling as the Cartridge Club Dragon kicks its way through Yakuza. I'm Melissa, and on behalf of our rotating pool of hosts, I'd like to thank you for listening. Joining us to talk about the game is JChip.
Hello.
And TJ Kitsune.
How's it going?
I'm here along with my husband, Eric.
Hello.
So we are playing Yakuza, originally for the PlayStation 2, but there was an update, a re-release, Yakuza Kiwami. So why don't you guys introduce yourself, let us know about your gaming history, and which game you are playing this month. Chip, you want to start?
Yeah, so my gaming history goes back to when I was a kid. I remember my brother had a PlayStation and an N64, and he gave me the N64 because he just didn't play it as much as he did the PlayStation. And that kind of just took off from there. I grew up with the PlayStation 2. I was born in 97, so I kind of missed out on the NES and Genesis games. So, started out in that generation. So PS2 was, I guess, my NES. That was just my childhood console. I do remember seeing Yakuza on like the posters at GameStop, but just never really picked it up. And I've always heard about it, but didn't really play it until this month. And I also went with the PlayStation 2 version.
Okay, great.
Now, are you the one who told me about it? You bought it new on Amazon, didn't you?
I did. Sega still reprints Yakuza 1 and 2 on Amazon.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish more companies did that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Mom. Okay. TJ, why don't you tell us about yourself in the game?
Like JChip, it started when I was young, way back in the Atari 2600 that my uncle had. So that was technically my first, aside from on Father's Day, my mother bought the NES. Started there, had a few games, did a lot of rentals. And then the kid down the street had the Sega Genesis, which introduced me to the world of Sega. And I was hooked basically from there. I was basically the one out of every 5 kids that was more of a Sega fan than a Nintendo fan. And I spent a lot of times in the local arcade at my mall, which got me into arcade gaming quite a bit. So I played all the classics, of course, your Donkey Kongs, your Simpsons, worked my way up through the 90s until the arcade closed. But I never lost that. And of course, when I started working with Arcade Impossible, working with them, that kind of reignited my love for Sega arcade games and all arcade games, really, especially from the 90s, being that I grew up with that. But I gradually, I ignored most of Nintendo stuff. My friends had all that, so anytime I was out with them, I got to play like the Nintendo 64, the PlayStations. But for me, it was more Genesis, Game Gear, Saturn, Dreamcast. And then, of course, now that Sega's third party, I had to eventually break down, and I ended up getting a PlayStation 2 when I was in college. At that time, Yakuza was not on my radar. I actually didn't get into Yakuza until the 4th game. And then I went back. So I have played the Kiwami was the one I played, but I've seen enough of the original PS2 game because I did start it. So I do know some of the difference between the two, which is kind of nice. But we can get into more of that. And being I was also part of Sega Addicts, I actually working from them to Megavisions for 7 years, which was a physical magazine where we did a lot of Sega stuff. I actually wrote an article for a Fist of the North Star that Sega did with Yakuza, the RGG team. So that doesn't count as a Yakuza game, but it's a spin-off in a sense because you can play as Kiryu. So depending if you want to count that or not. But yeah, so long history with games and Yakuza.
Great.
Okay, Eric, why don't you tell us about your experience?
Well, I mean, we started with the Atari at my house, and I was pretty little when we got that. So really, I came into gaming around the NES era, the 8-bit era. I think is just a great era to come up in. And of course, it was revolutionary, and I went with the Sega Master System at the time, so I missed out on the whole NES thing, which in retrospect is lamentable a little bit because that was a whole cultural thing. But I've been into games ever since then, and we go through. I eventually bought PlayStations and all that stuff, and I tend to have a lot of the consoles. But I've heard I didn't know about Yakuza on the PS2. I think that I became aware of this series much later, and when they started re-releasing them on PS4, where they came out with the Kiwami, and I'm like, listen, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of these games, together on the PS4. That's when I started grabbing them, and so I've wanted to play this game for a long time, and I was really glad that it became chosen for the Cartridge Club Game of the Month, and definitely wanted to give it a try, not only because we'd heard such good things about it, but because it's also a Sega property. And I had heard, and after playing it, I'm not so sure, although I can kind of see it, that it might have been inspired by, spiritually related to, third cousin of Shenmue. And I don't know how true that is, but you can kind of see it there. Yeah, there's Shenmue. Yeah, and I played Shenmue a few years ago for the first time too. So really enjoying these. So yeah, longtime Sega guy, and glad to finally get Yakuza under my belt.
Okay, all right. So for me, I played video games when I was a kid too. Like my dad had gotten us an Atari and a ColecoVision and an NES, and then I knew about the Sega Genesis when I was in high school. I'm aging myself, and then I remember I had met Eric in college, and I played Doom on his computer, and then kind of got out of them, and then Eric and I got married, and so I am still connected to video games through him. So when the Cartridge Club said, "Oh, they're going to play Yakuza," I was like, I don't know. So Eric was playing it, and I was just letting him play it, and I just wasn't sure if it was a game for me. And I said, "Well, let me just try it because we're going to do the podcast together. I can at least try it, and then say if I don't like it, I can say, I didn't finish it because I didn't like it." But it hooked me. So we played Yakuza Kiwami, and I know a lot of people like to play their original games, to see how they are originally. But I like the upgraded versions because I don't have a lot of gaming time. So if the upgrades make the game just a little bit easier and a little bit more playable in this time, then I enjoy that. And I really enjoyed this one. All right, so let's talk about the game a little bit. This is going to be a spoiler-filled podcast. We'll do a little synopsis of the story. Okay, so Yakuza starts out with Kiryu, our main protagonist, his brother and best friend Nishiki, and Yumi, all friends from the Sunflower Orphanage. You fast forward a bit, and Yumi is taken by the patriarch of the Jojima family, and, he kind of wants to have his way with her, so Nishiki rescues her by killing him. Kiryu takes the fall for it and goes to jail for 10 years. Then the main story continues 10 years later after he gets out of jail, and there's unrest in the Tojo clan, partly because of the patriarch being killed 10 years earlier. And this is where the main part of the game begins. But along the way, there's a ton of fighting, right? And there's a ton of battles and running around the streets of, how do you say it, Kamurocho, between the different Yakuza clans to get to the bottom of the story. Besides the main story, there's like kind of like a side story. This Majima character, I forget.
So-
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Majima actually was the
Oh,
yeah,
Majima.
Majima. Or Majima.
I like Majima.
That's how we've been saying it.
Yeah. Majima.
Okay, Majima.
So Majima actually in the first Yakuza turns out to be the patriarch of his own subsidiary of the Tojo clan. So really the plot evolves around the Tojo clan itself, the fact that Kiryu supposedly killed Dojima, who is the leader of the Tojo clan, the president basically. But Majima at the time kind of has this rivalry with Kiryu, which is more touched on in Zero, and all of that. So really, Majima has no desire, doesn't care about the 10 billion yen that's missing, doesn't care about all that. His whole thing is he's focused on Kazuma and their rivalry.
Chip, you had played the PS2 version. Is Majima in that at all? Is this Majima everywhere thing? Is that a Kiwami thing, or is that in the PS2 version?
That would be a Kiwami thing. He's in the original, but he's only in like 3 or 4 scenes at best.
TJ, what's the deal here with the Kiwami version? I mentioned Majima everywhere. What is that?
Yeah, so the Kiwami version is technically their director's cut. It fills in a lot of the plot holes that were missing from the original game. And because Majima had gained such popularity and the fact that he was voiced by Mark Hamill, if anybody is familiar with that. Which
Wait. Say that again?
So Mark Hamill, a.k.a. Luke Skywalker, bunch of voice actors,
Yeah,
the Joker.
The Joker,
He voices Majima in the original PS2 version.
Oh.
So that's one of the special things about that PS2 version is the fact that that is a completely different. It's so far, I will say, the only English dub of the original Yakuza game is the PS2 version. That's what makes it most unique. In fact, the voice actor of Kiryu makes his return later on in the series in the Like a Dragon. And Dante, this will be another interesting one for you. Dante is voiced by Bill Farmer. And if you're not familiar with Bill Farmer, he voiced Goofy in Goof Troop going forward. And still to this day is Goofy. And he repraises his role as Dante later on in the Like a Dragon series.
Okay, now that's so that's for the English dub on the PS2.
Correct.
Okay, so
yes,
yeah, we played Kiwami where all the voice actors it was all done in Japanese.
Correct.
I feel like I learned a little Japanese listening to it, but
Yakuza's very good for that actually.
Yeah,
that's what makes the PS2 version more unique. Now the Kiwami version technically has about 30 minutes more story content than what the original PS2 version has, and that's where you get the Majima everywhere, where Majima's constantly popping up and he's challenging Kiryu and trying. Basically, there's two things that his goal, and that is to get Kiryu back in shape as the Dragon of Dojima, and just because he likes fighting Kiryu, he actually idolizes Kiryu throughout the series, and they're, I guess you could say, frenemies in a sense, and that's what the Tojo clan does. Is even though you have a bunch of subsidiaries of the Tojo clan, the families, the patriarch, then you have the various leaders of all them. Because I think there's several scenes in later versions of the game where you see all of the family leaders together in one room, and they kind of make up like the council of the Tojo clan. So that's where that goes to, and they're constantly kind of trying to outsmart each other to be lined up for whoever takes over control of the clan itself. So that's where that comes from. That's why that version of Kiwami has added that. There's also, I don't know if we want to say already, one of the big difference between the PS2 and the Kiwami version is it explains the ring that Kiryu picks up after he is caught by the police for killing his patriarch, Dojima. That's in the PS2 version. That's basically all you see is him pick up this ring. It has Yumi's name on it on the inside.
Mhm.
That's kind of left as a plot hole in the PS2 version. In the Kiwami version, I'm sure you guys have played where you go on this quest to find the ring for Yumi.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And then
that's
he
explained in
gives it to
Kiwami.
him.
That's one of
Yeah.
the extra things that they add to fill that in is those flashbacks and then you going to find that ring.
Mm.
Nice.
So it's really the story is the same. They just added those little things in to make it a little different from the PS2 version. Then you also have the camera angles because the Kiwami version allows you to move the camera freely. You can look around, whereas the PS2 version, you're kind of stuck with a over-the-head Resident Evil style where the camera is fixed. So as you're running through the streets, you can't really change the camera angles as much, or at least free roam that. So that's another big change, a more quality of life type thing that they added to Kiwami as well.
There's a couple other things too. There's some, maybe you know this. I don't want to say too much for Chip, but there were like 3 side stories at the very, very end that kind of filled out the background of the
Yes.
whole main story. Is that new to Kiwami also?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So do some side stories at the end, Chip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Side stories, as much as people disregard them, a lot of them are very important to give you more context in the game. Are they really necessary? Some of them, no, but it gives you more of that feeling that Kamurocho is really alive, that you have all these different people you interact with. There's actually several recurring characters that you meet in Kiwami that will later show up in future games. Trying to think, there's the strong guy and I forget his name. He's always constantly challenging you.
The big head. I think
Yeah.
like at first his name was like guy with big head or something.
Yeah. He shows up in later games. There's also some brothers that show up and they reoccur throughout the game. Some of the hostesses that you run into will be reoccurring characters. Trying to think specifically because there's recurring characters that show up in like 0 and 3 and then that will later show up in future games from there. But Kiwami itself, or the PS2 version, there's maybe only 3 that I can think of, and I don't remember their names. But I know there's like 2 brothers that show up, and then you have some recurring characters from different families, and then the strong guy that keeps challenging you, basically. But you also have like the doctor. The doctor constantly shows up. There's also the master who trains you. I forget his name. He annoys the heck out of me, but he trains you and shows you the different moves that you can learn throughout the series, and he always is just about in every game.
I wanted to hear JChip talk about the gameplay loop of the PS2.
So the PS2 version, so I don't know if it happens a lot in Kiwami, but essentially, as you're traveling to mission, people will just randomly show up to you and they'll challenge you to a fight, and that's how you gain your experience. So it's very RPG like, just leveling up your soul, leveling up your body, just increasing your stats to make things a bit better. I do know in Kiwami there are different stances that you can do. That does not happen in the PS2 version at all. You just go with the one stance and you kind of either just repeat the same move over and over again or do a little bit of a strategy depending on if they're a bigger enemy or not.
So there's no, you mean like fighting stances? Like there's like 4 different fighting options for you in Kiwami. You don't have that.
Yeah, you don't have that in the PS2 version.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear about, because without Majima everywhere, one of the 4 stances in Kiwami is the only way to improve it is by fighting. Sorry, I'm going to say the old name out of habit, TJ. Majima everywhere. One of the main things is that he gets you to improve your dragon. What's it called? Dragon of Dojima style. And so that doesn't even exist in the PS2 version. So that's a complete addition. And I got to tell you, I found that I liked using those different styles and different places. That was a fun addition. But it sounds like in the PS2 version, okay, so there's the one fighting stance, and then it's pretty much kind of the same loop. You walk the city, and random people will come up and fight you. Is that right?
Yep, that's true. It's very it's very RPG like. Usually, some guy will just come up to you and be like, "Hey, let's fight," and then you'll either have 2 or 3 other people around him, and you had to beat them all up.
Did you guys like doing those fights, or did you try to run away from them? Or
So the way I play RPGs, I do every single fight. But there was a point where I was like, I kind of just want to get the things done. I want to just get to the next mission. So sometimes I'll just run away from them.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. I was like, I just want to get to the next thing, or I'm doing like a sub story, and you have to go like back and forth somewhere, and it's like I just want to go do my thing for the sub story and come back, right? Or like I just want to go to the pharmacy and get some drugs for me, for my fight, and then go. I don't care about you punks or ruffians on the street.
Yeah, it especially got annoying when you're with Haruka, when you're taking care of her, like making sure she has a good time. And then random people just show up and it's like, man, I'm just trying to hang out with my daughter. Like, can you just leave me alone?
Yeah, it's true. Why don't we talk about some of the fighting now in Kiwami? We had Brawler, which was yellow, and you were like a big, like it felt like you were like this big brawny guy, and you had real slow. No, wait, Brawler was blue. Sorry, and this one it was kind of like a balance between strong fighting and fast fighting. I would say, right? And then Rush was like a purpley color, I would say, and that where you would just like rush attacks, like super fast attacks. They weren't very powerful, but you could really like um, increase your heat very fast using that. And then there was beast mode, and that's the one that was yellow, where you were like this beast of a fighter, and you would like super strong attacks, but you were also kind of slow. And then there was the dragon of Dojima, like you talked about, Eric, where that's where you were learning to become, I guess, the master fighter that you used to be before you went to jail.
Throughout my course, I stuck basically with the brawler or the beast. The beast, especially because it was just fun to grab random objects and throw them at people, or throwing around the opponents. I got a fun. I like those little cutscenes, the touches that if your heat is raised enough, you can grab them, slam somebody into the side of a wall, then you end up like kicking them again when they're down. The brawler style, though, for me, it was your standard. Your stats were basically kind of the same all the way through. It was very middle. You were strong, but you weren't like totally buff. You could do quick attacks, but they weren't as quick as the Rush. Those were the two ones that I basically stayed with the entire time.
I would say one time I was fighting Majima, and we were on one of the main streets, and there was like this huge electrical metal, you know, thing in on the street, and I grabbed it as being in the beast mode and went and did a heat activation on him, and you showed it. It was like I was even like my character was like having trouble like lifting it up, and like they even showed like all that, and then you saw Majima, and he's like, no, no, and then like just rains down on him and just like flattens. And it's so funny because like all those moves, you're like you basically just killed the guy, yet he gets up and continues to fight you. Chip, why don't you talk about it, especially since you have the two, since you've been playing both.
So I haven't beaten Kiwami yet, but so far I've mainly been doing the brawler. Um, I haven't really experimented too much with the other fighting styles, but I pretty much like brawler because it resembles slightly how the PS2 version plays.
now, do they have heat in the? You guys mentioned heat a couple times. Do they have that in the PS2 version?
Yes.
They
So
do.
when your gauge fills up, you can do a special move to take them out easier.
I found I like to use Rush every now and then because I like the really fast thing, but I had trouble like I couldn't always quite figure out the heat, how to trigger the heat action, right? There's this little icon that'll show up and it'll tell you, okay, now you can do the thing. But in certain battle modes, it was like Rush particularly, it's like I can't grab anybody, which is one good way to trigger heat, and you got to knock them down or do something. And so I did like Rush, but I tended to use the modes where I could reliably get the heat action to trigger, and Brawler was a good one. and it automatically picks up weapons. And then, of course, depending on what you have in your hand, if you get heat action, it'll do different animations, like Melissa mentioned, where you pick up the big electrical box and throw it down. So there were some pretty cool ones there. But you guys did mention Rush. I actually like to use Rush, except that I couldn't figure out how to get the heat actions to trigger reliably.
I was kind of the same. Like I would do Rush when I wanted to push my heat up as fast as I could, because that I usually was able to do, and then I would change it, like especially when I played against Majima, because I wanted to do heat a lot with him, because he was, by the time I was done with the game, he had 5 life bars that I had to go through. So when you use the heat action, that takes off a lot. I also played it on easy, and so it took off like almost a whole bar every time I used heat action on him. So, and then otherwise, I think I liked Brawler. It was just, it's really interesting, because I think that was part of the reason why it kind of made it like a pretty fun beat 'em up, because you could decide like, oh, these guys, I'm going to be, beast mode on them, or I'm going to do brawler on them, or whatever. And it made the game much more interesting than just pounding away on somebody. Some of the other things, like, could we talk about the like in Kamurocho that you could do? There was like places you could go and entertain yourself. There was places you could eat, places you could drink, little stores and whatnot. So, did you like, and for the game, there's a lot of like completion points that you could do for all these things. Have you guys did you try to do that? I know now, Chip, I assume that's like a Kiwami thing, because it's also like a, I don't know, is that just a Kiwami thing with the completion points and everything?
I didn't really do a whole lot of exploration, but there are some things you can do in between missions. Like if you want to go gamble, you can. If there's I believe there's an arcade,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a batting cage if you want to do some baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ton of other shops and places that you can explore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a ton of side stuff to do in this, and I got hooked. I mean, I probably spent 2/3 of my game time doing random stuff. I'll list off a few. I mean, there's Pocket Racer, there's Mesu King, there's bowling, there's darts, there's mahjong, batting cages, gambling. Were those all in the PS2? Because the whole time I'm playing Kiwami, I'm thinking, how the heck did they get this game on PS2? This would have been an absolutely amazing game on the PS2 if all this content's here. So what was it like? Did they have all that?
I would say most of it. I don't think Mesu King was in the PS2 version. I can't recall if Pocket Racer was or not. I know like darts was. I can't remember if bowling. I know the gambling and the batting cages were. It's been a while.
JChip, do you know? Is Mesu King or Pocket? Do you know what those are from your PS2 playthrough?
I believe there's a specific card game that happens where you gotta talk to a guy and he leads you into a hidden room. That's in the PS2 version. I believe you can play Mahjong in this one. I just haven't really explored that one yet. Pocket Racers, I don't remember at all being in there, but the batting cages and the gambling, the arcade one's there for to get a stuffed animal. That stuff's in the PS2 version.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's a card. Did you say card game? There's a card game with like, it's based on like rock paper scissors with insect women.
It's basically women in
women in
scantily
insect-
clad insect outfits.
Yeah, that's a Kiwami only thing.
That's
Okay.
a Kiwami thing. Yeah,
Okay, I might be mixing that up with the a dice game then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wondered. Yeah, I remember the dice game you were talking about. So they did add some of these games. So how much time? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sorry, the Pocket Racers, I spent probably 3 hours on it, and I didn't even complete it. Like there was like one side mission for it, and then there was like, you saw Majima there like 3 times, and that was like 3 hours. Like that was like 3 hours of my time, and I was going to use that time to move on in the missions, and I spent like the whole morning playing it this week.
Yeah, I spent a huge amount of time doing Pocket Racers and Mesu King and trying to collect all that stuff. But TJ, what about you? Did you mess with that?
I spent a lot of time on those ones. Pocket Racers, especially. I did finish Pocket Racers. I got through that. I was the
Nice.
king for a while. Mesu King, I don't believe I was able to finish, but I got close to it. I collected a lot of the cards. Just because Mesu King is much like, I don't know if you played Dinosaur King on the 3DS. That was also by Sega. That was closely related to Mesu King, based off of an actual Dinosaur King was an actual arcade game before it was ported to the 3DS, where you could battle dinosaurs. So you get these collector cards from the arcade machine, and you were able to, if you caught them, and then you were able to battle those dinosaurs, they would give you that card, kind of the same way that Mesu King was. There's a couple other card games that Sega did that were kind of similar, but Mesu King is only for Kiwami that I'm aware of. I haven't found that one in an arcade version or any other standalone game. Bowling was fun. I hated the chicken. That's your main rival if you get that far, is you end up with this chicken, and he reoccurs again in future Like a Dragon Yakuza games.
Oh, I didn't get that far in bowling. I just did the one thing. That was it.
I try to do them all. I spent a lot of time on darts. I learned Mahjong by playing Yakuza. Surprisingly, I haven't been quite brave enough to play it against people in real life, even though I've been around Mahjong tables before. But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna figure this game out. So I actually sat down, and it was after I'd finished Yakuza, I went back and I said, I'm purposely gonna go back to the Mahjong rooms and just figure this out, because I'm like, this seems like a cool game. It's still very confusing to me, but I've got somewhat of an understanding of matching the tiles. Batting I didn't spend so much on, just because I'm horrible at batting cages to begin with in real life. So that
I
was
didn't
not
either.
that was not for me.
Yeah.
And the gambling, the only one I played was blackjack, because that was the only one I was really good at. But it was a
nice.
good way to get all the to get more money towards an achievement for it.
Oh, right,
That's why I played it.
Yeah. Okay, and then there was also there's also, besides like collecting all the, we talked about collecting the cards for that Mesu King. There was also like random locker keys around. Now, did you guys collect all those? And was that something in PS2 also? Chip, go ahead, Chip.
Yes, the keys are in the PS2 version. I didn't collect them all. I just kind of picked them up when they were there. But there are, I believe, 26, 27 keys that you can find in the entire game.
Yeah, I looked them up. Like, I got down to like the last, I don't know, maybe 8 that I
Yeah.
needed, and then I looked them up.
Yeah, same with me.
What
I
about you,
collected
TJ?
when I ran across them, I picked them up. But yeah, I didn't bother getting them all.
Did you have the little like sensor thing, like you can put it as an accessory and then it would beep when you'd walk by it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah.
That was fun. What about the hostess? I don't know what it's called. The hostess girls side thing, where you can go to these. I only found 2 of them. I think there's only 2 of them, where you can go to these clubs and you can kind of try to get your way in good. I don't know what get in good and go on dates with these hostess girls. Did you guys try those? First of all, was that in the PS2 version?
Yeah, so I did one, and I learned my lesson because she took all my money, so I had to go get that back.
What?
Yeah, so
I didn't know that could happen.
There's a situation where like the bartender drugs the drink and he passes out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They take the money away. So I had to, I thought that was quite funny. I didn't do any of the other dating stuff in this game.
Okay.
That was just a one and done for me.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I got hurt in that mission too. But there's some other ones where you go to the TJ, you want to tell us about it? It sounds like you did this.
Yeah, I was in the same boat where I got my money taken. I did try doing kind of trying to woo the other girls, but I didn't get very far. I ended up giving up eventually on it. So
okay. Well, then I'm going to talk about
it.
Then
Eric, you talk about it.
Yeah, because I did them. So there were 2 other clubs, Jewel and Shine, that you could go into it, and you have to go talk to someone, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, these are the girls. Ask for these girls, and then you go in and you go on a date, and it's like it costs like something like I forget the number. It's like 8,000 yen, and then 3,000 if you request the girl, and then there's something, and then you got to like buy drinks and all that stuff, and you talk to her. Eventually, the affection grows, and you can ask her out on a date, and you go on a date, and ultimately, well, this is as far as I went with it. Ultimately, you can get the affection up to S level or something, and you'll get a little cutscene, and it's a live action video of some Japanese girls in I don't lingerie. Yeah, lingerie. They're in lingerie, and they're just kind of smiling at you and kind of showing
rolling
off some skin,
around
and there's trophies for them. So yeah, I did both of those. So yeah, that was another side thing where I just spent way too much time, whenever I could. And they in the PS4 in the Kiwami version, they have little you have a cell phone, and they'll message you and say, "Hey, I'm at the club. Why don't you come over?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure, I can." My friend is bleeding to death in an abandoned building, but I'm going to come and hang out with you for a little while. And I did that. I actually did that. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
So that's in there.
If
you want to go try it out.
But it's a lot of money. I mean, you ended the game with like
Oh
a
yeah,
couple $100,000 maybe, and
yeah. I
I
was always
ended the
poor.
game with like $4 million. So
Hmm.
like, and I didn't do either of those uh girl missions yet because
Yeah, they're
they
expensive.
took a
It
lot of
turns
time.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
and women are expensive, I guess.
I wasn't going to say it. I was going to leave that up in the air for. All right, you said it. Anyway,
I
yeah,
s-
yeah. It was an expensive thing, but that was another set of
yeah.
mini games. That was,
I
you
I
know,
don't recall if it was in Kiwami 1, but I might. When you start playing all the Yakuza games, those hostess bars start blurring together because they're kind of the same places throughout
Mhm.
most of the
Uh-huh.
games. But I think at one point Majima shows up, and he's somebody you can actually sit
Yes.
with at the hostess bar.
Yes, that
Oh
is true.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
There's
And
That's
something, yeah.
there's
yeah.
a callback to that in Virtua Fighter 5 where you can get that costume for Sarah, and
Oh,
she's dressed
really?
as Majima in the dress.
Oh, that's
Oh,
funny.
Yeah, Virtua
Sega.
Fighter 5 has a full Yakuza package where you can change the costumes of your character to look like one of the Yakuza characters.
Yeah,
Ah,
So
that's
there's
awesome.
callbacks
okay.
to that.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
especially later on in the games where you become the manager of the hostess bar, that also adds a whole nother dynamic to
Oh,
it.
interesting.
I'm spoiling stuff for future games, but
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I did get the Majima girl,
okay.
because I was gonna start like the one of them. I don't remember. I think it was
Mhm.
Uni or something, and then I got the Majima girl, but then I never went back to them, just because I started the game late this month, and so I was like, I'll do those later if I want to or not. I don't know.
What I thought interesting about the hostess clubs too is that the girls that you can get with are actually all real adult actors in Japan. So
Oh,
Oh
Sega went
really?
out and actually hired adult actresses for those roles. So a lot of
interesting.
their mocap is all actually from them.
Yeah.
Huh.
In future games too, they make that known. You can find them on YouTube. Some of the behind the scenes from the future Yakuza games
Hmm.
that they interview some of the girls, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's great to be back and doing this, and I think it's so cool seeing myself in a game."
Hmm.
But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting, but that gives it more of that adult themes that the RGG team was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Also, I did some of the other side things I did, like, because I was trying to get the completion points. Because, if you got the completion points, you could also see, I forgot his name. He was like a clown on the end of the street from where you started. Like, I feel like his name was like David or something. Like, it was like, I don't know. It wasn't a Japanese name. I felt, but anyway, so you
Really?
got, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm gonna look it up. I don't think it's
You look it up.
David.
Okay.
Let me
So
see.
I would go for these completion points all the time because actually you could get some really great stuff. Like you could run forever without getting tired. You could eat food whenever you wanted. Like at the beginning when you ate food, it would fill up your health bar, and then you couldn't eat anymore after that. And so this would, like, you could eat whatever, and then you could do drinking and stuff. So I did all these completion points. I also got some really good armor from the completion points. So I did all the eating and all the drinking at all the restaurants, um, to like try to do that. And like I took taxis. Like I tried to do as much as I could to get all those. Oh, his name was Bob. See, Bob.
I
told
know.
you.
I'm wrong. It was a basic English name, Bob.
Like that's all I meant.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. Did you guys do the completion points or no?
No, I didn't.
No,
Okay.
Bob does show up later on in other games too, and has
sure.
a few other roles.
Okay.
But
Nice.
most of the time, you see him. He's the one where if you have like the DLC and everything, you go to him, and then you receive the DLC from him.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Yeah.
Kiwami shipped with some because, like, when I first went to him, there were like 4 packages that I got, and it
Yep.
contained some parts for just some stuff, including some of the pocket
Like the
racer
pocket
parts, which
racers.
was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those completion points, they exist in the PS2 version, though, right? Or do they not?
I believe so. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Okay.
TJ, would you know?
I think some of them just add to your experience points as you get them.
Mhm.
Okay. But like, is like eating at the restaurants, like if you like in Kiwami, if you eat every menu item at a restaurant, you get a point for that.
Yeah.
Is that
So I remember trying to eat something, but then Kiryu was like, I'm not hungry, so I'm gonna leave.
Mm.
yeah.
So I never really went back to try to eat something because I thought maybe like he would just not be hungry at that point.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. You played better than I did. I was constantly low on health with the street battle, so I would go and
Don't worry, I filled up on those drinks at the convenience store.
The stamina drinks and whatnot.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time. I found the ones I liked the best were at Don Quixote. They had this stamina double X. Those were like the highest level ones I could reliably buy. So I was constantly going down there. It's at the south end of the map. Going down there, grabbing those things, and just filling up my whole inventory with stamina. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Stamina.
The one that
Stamina
does a
X.
little bit, pretty good heat, pretty good health,
Mhm.
Yep.
and yeah. So yeah, there's all those convenience stores, right, that you can go and buy stuff at. And
Yeah.
I made frequent trips to those.
I think that's what added a lot to the Yakuza games is that you can actually interact and go into these stores, purchase items,
Yeah.
eat at the different restaurants that were kind of knockoffs of known brands. The bars I thought were really cool. The Boss Coffee vending machines I loved going at. That's what started my addiction to Boss Coffee.
Really, there's vending machines. I didn't even notice you can buy coffee out of vending machines.
I didn't notice that
You
either.
can't buy out of the vending machines. I think
okay.
in one of the games you can, but you get like weird items. Like there's I don't remember which game it was, but you can get like panties and adult comics or magazines out of vending machines. But yeah, if you check out the vending machines, they have like Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, Boss Coffee, and all of that you can see because they have advertisements and licenses with them. And then if you go to the bars, they generally have like Jack Daniels. I mean, I've got Suntory whiskey.
Yeah. I
So
thought that
that's
was
what-
neat. They would talk about the liquor as you bought some of those drinks. They'd kind of describe it, and I thought that was fun. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that because I enjoy cocktails. This is a highball.
Nice.
Even though I don't have a highball glass, that's what I've been sipping on tonight. But yeah, it's I like trying all those things. So for me, it was more interesting. I would sit at the bar, just drink until I was drunk, and then wander down the street. And of course, because you're in that phase, you're more susceptible to getting jumped by the thugs. So
Is that what it was? Like,
yeah.
I didn't notice. Like, I didn't stumble around or anything. I could still move, but it just makes it more likely that you're going to get attacked. Is that what it is?
It raises your vulnerability because people, just like in real life, if people see you drunk and they want to pester you, they're gonna do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you drink, there's like a little glass that appears in the left-hand corner that tells you just how drunk you are after each drink.
Yeah.
And then when you get your fill, the bartender will actually stop you and be like, "You've had enough. You have to leave." So then you're stumbling out, and like your movement will be like completely messed up. So if you're trying to go left, you go right.
Is that true? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so if you buy like waters and everything from the pharmacy, that'll help lower your alcohol level. It'll sober you up. So, but if you're trying to get like more XP, that's the way to kind of do it, is go to the bar, get drunk, and then kind of stumble around, but it's going to inebriate you, so your movements are sloppy, your controls are sloppy, and then as you drink the water or anything else to sober yourself up during the fights, it'll do that, but you're going to lose some of your EXP for that.
Wow, this game is there's just a lot in this game. I am blown away by all of that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's just like with the darts, because that's where I would play darts most of the time. I get drunk, play darts.
Oh yeah, I was drunk too.
Yep. And then if you win, you get like special darts from there, or if you get from the locker, you can get ones that are easier to kind of move. So as you're trying to aim towards the dartboard, which I've been playing Shenmue on stream lately because it's December, and that whole game takes place at Christmas. But it's kind of interesting to see that where you can't change the movement of your hand as you can in Yakuza. But I can see where they got that idea from. So it's just kind of neat to see that evolution of how they've done that. And then of course everything is by Darts Alive, which is an actual product that Sega has. Unfortunately, we've got some near me. I've never had a chance to actually play them to see just how accurate they really are, but I'm sure they are.
Neat. Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time on darts actually.
Yeah,
Sounds fun though.
I did them with Majima.
Yeah, I did. That's what I did too.
Yeah. And I had just been drinking, and then he came in there, and I was like, "Oh shoot, we're not." And it showed you like it was all wavy when you were playing when you were drunk, but I still beat him, so it was okay. Okay, so besides all that other stuff, there's a main story to this game, and so there's.
Well, hang on. Before you talk about the main story, there's one other thing I think we should talk about, and that's the Coliseum, which is another.
But yeah.
Did we talk about it? The Coliseum.
No, but you get to that from one of the main stories, but that's okay. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I thought. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. There's this Coliseum that you meet this guy in the story called the Florist, and in order for him to help you, he's like, you need to beat 3 guys in my Coliseum. He's got this fighting, like this MMA kind of fighting cage thing called the Coliseum, where people fight it out. So once you do that part of the story and you fight it out and you win, then you can go back to the Coliseum and do, was there maybe 10 different levels of the Coliseum, and each one, you'd fight 3 guys, and each option had something different. Like one of them would have random things from the street that you could use during your fights and stuff. And it's another thing to earn points, buy things with, and like more side stuff, and I didn't finish it all, so there's probably like a trophy or something, and there's probably completion points to do it or whatever. But did you guys like do up the Coliseum or just kind of bare minimum?
I only did the first one, the one where you're supposed to do. I never really went back there to try it again. Just that one time.
So it was there in the PS2 version.
Yes.
I guess it would have to be. It was part of the story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And TJ, what about you?
Yeah, I got up to I think the 3rd or 4th fight before I gave up.
It gets hard.
Tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. I didn't have enough experience to build up my stamina or my HP to be able to last. It was fun. It did fit in with the storyline with the Florist and his whole underground network that he's got going on. So it made sense, and it does play a pivotal part in future games. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time on it either. It was 3 battles in a row with only a little bit of health. You can't use any items. Well, I think some of the matches had items thrown into the ring, but 3 enemies in a row with very little health upgrade in between, and second endurance match. And I got beaten pretty bad the first time or two, and I didn't spend a lot of time there. But it's just another thing to do to add points and collect things. And I think did we talk about? I forget the guy's name. We kind of talked about the guy who would teach you new moves in the park.
Oh yeah.
Is that was Dragon of Dojima battle style too? So does that not exist in the PS2 version?
There is a guy that will teach you moves, but he does not teach you different styles.
Yeah. Okay. He's the guy in the park, right? And you have to go collect things for him, and then he'll teach you a new move.
I think he's actually like near the casino.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, by the casino.
There are story missions. 12 chapters, I think it is. 13?
13.
13 chapters. I feel like I would do like a chapter, maybe 2, and then I would spend the rest of my playtime like just doing random side quests, because depending on like where you were in the main story chapters, like that's when other side quests would come up, and you could see them in Kiwami. You could see them on the map, like with a like you can have this little accessory that would show an exclamation point, and that's where you knew that that was like a sub story that you could go do. And along, and as an aside too, then you'd also have Majima, who would come at you like in different levels himself. Like he was a cop one time, he would hide one time, he would just be in plain sight one time. Like there was different ones. Chip, did you have like was there a way to find sub stories in the original Yakuza, or did they just kind of happen? Like how did it go between the story missions and the side missions?
They sort of kind of just happen when you're walking around. There will be a person of interest that you can talk to, and I believe that's what triggers a side story. I didn't do a whole lot of them. I kind of just was focused on the main story at hand. But there are plenty of them in the PS2 version.
So how did you do with getting through the game, through the main missions without it? You said before it's like an RPG, right? And so
Yeah.
like I did a bunch of these side missions, and of course it got me experience points and it got me money and it made me stronger, and hopefully it made the game easier. How did you find going through the game with dare I say minimal side story things? Was it a challenge, or were all the enemies pretty pretty well matched to your character level?
I would say the enemies were pretty matched to my character's skill level.
Okay.
Um, and also there's just so many fighting. Like so many people will just come up to you and challenge you to a fight, because that's pretty much what you're doing. Not about like 50% of the time throughout this game is just running around, and someone will be like, "Hey, let's fight," and then
Okay. So the random street battles helped you level up too,
yes,
not
yes.
the
And
side mission.
sometimes if I'm ever feeling I'm low in level, I will just run around in circles until someone stops me to fight.
Nice, nice. TJ, do you know? I thought I had maybe read. Does this game auto level the enemies to your current player level? Do you happen to know? Is that a thing?
In the Kiwami version, the bosses are but as it depends on how far you progress through the story. I think each chapter the enemies get a little harder, a little stronger. But that's the only progression that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I
I felt like
forgot where we were.
Majima definitely, like like I said, by the time I played him at the end, he had 5 different colored life bars, so
Mhm.
it would be, this is, you can tell like when you're fighting someone and you see another color underneath, you're like, oh man, this guy has like 2 levels,
Yep.
but it was like I had 5 levels with him, and I was like, ugh, this is
Okay,
rough.
but it's worse than that. We haven't talked about this, I don't think. There's a recovery.
Yeah.
Is that in the PS2 version? There's this thing where the enemies will hunker down and their life bar will go back up, and you have to well, what do you
Well,
do? I mean, what do you do when that
what did
happens?
you do in the PlayStation 2 level?
I don't think that's in the PS2 version.
Okay. And maybe that's because the Kiwami version has the 4 different fight types, right?
Oh yeah,
Right, that would make sense. Yeah.
because you have to match them, and then you have to do a move, right?
Yeah,
And
based on
so
you have to have heat.
you have to have heat. Yeah, you have to have this heat. And so I eventually learned, it probably took me until I was halfway through the game, to say, okay, when they do that, I'm just going to drink a potion. A heat drink, and it'll give me the heat I need so that I can do this. And you have to try to stop them. If it takes too long, they're going to recover a whole bunch of health, right?
Yeah,
So that was an interesting
that
aspect.
was and it was frustrating.
Did you like get the food to go to have in your inventory aside from the stamina X?
I almost
No.
never did that. Why would that have helped?
Yes, because you can actually get food to go from different restaurants and store
Yeah.
that in the inventory. And sometimes, like in some of the stages, is just before you face a boss. Like if you're going up in the Millennium Tower or up in the warehouse, in various corners, you could pick up items that will be like food or like a rice ball or something, and you can use those during your battles. Even in, I think in the Coliseum, you can use that as well. Just can't use the weapons. I might be wrong. I think it says no food or weapons. One of them will allow some of that. It depends on which
Okay.
match you're in, but that's a good strategy. I always load up on food that I can carry with me. If you go to like the convenience stores, you can get like the bento boxes, and all
Or
those
ramen.
things. Yep.
Okay.
So that's another thing for future reference. If you move on to the other Yakuza games, always check the convenience stores and fill up on your bentos and everything to have.
Is there a reason? I use those drinks. Is there a reason to use the food over the drinks?
Yeah, so the drinks do give you a lot of stamina, plus it can help your rush attacks.
Yeah.
But the food itself is just strictly for your HP.
Yeah.
Some of
Okay.
them may give you some extra bonuses, but they also give you XP as well on top of it. Because there's
yeah.
usually achievements like if you eat so many foods, or if you get so many foods to go from the convenience stores. That's a good thing to keep in mind that it's something you should have on hand, especially during boss fights. They kind of came in handy. Instead of just stocking up on the stamina X, you can use the food. Some of them will give you a bunch of health. Some of them will only give you like a quarter health, but it's enough to give you an edge.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: is that the case in the PS2 version as well?
Yeah, I want to say that would be in the PS2 version too.
Okay, because I didn't really have like food to go. Like I just used the drinks.
Yep. I think that's what a lot of people miss is they just don't go to the convenience stores or anything and realize that, because you can get all like even the pharmacist will give you medicine that will help aside from the stamina X.
Yeah.
But yeah, the conveniences and some of the restaurants, if you get them to go.
So I got them. I would go like Smile in the Kiwami one. There's Smile Burger, and I would get the food to go. But then when I saw that there wasn't like a completion point to it, like I didn't get it anymore. I was like,
Right,
oh,
yeah.
never mind.
Yeah.
and then I would get the food from the convenience stores because it said, like eat, 30 items or whatever, and you get a completion point. So I would just get them and then eat them right away. I never thought to like keep them in my inventory and eat them while battling. I just did it to like do the completion point.
Yeah, I mean that kind of goes with like the weapons too. Like you can keep the weapons in your inventory and you can assign them to quick buttons like your up, down, left, right on your diagonal pad, and you can pull those out during fights too at any time. They do break, or like the gun, you get like 5 shots and then you can throw the weapon at somebody's head, which I love doing, but which is kind of related to some of the funny things that even Sega or RGG Studio has mentioned, that Kiryu has never killed anybody in any Yakuza game, which if you pay attention is not always true. He will indirectly kill somebody.
Yeah. Did you guys use weapons a lot? I tended not to until the end of the game, and then I'm like, I better start using this stuff.
I did. I pull out the golf club, smack somebody a couple times, put it away before it broke.
Oh, sure.
But,
I used a wooden katana, sometimes a real katana. Golf clubs, I use weapons.
I certainly picked up weapons when the near the end of the game, there's a battle where there's a bunch of guys with guns, and I would pick them up and make quick work of them with their own pistol. That was helpful. But yeah, it's like you said, TJ. The weapons will break, right? And then if you do enough side missions, people would give me repair kits, or you could go to these weapons shops. There's a couple of them hidden around. I don't think we talked about yet, but they're expensive. Like some of these are like, this is really expensive. And I had already spent all my money on these girls, so I didn't have money for these weapons.
We know what your priorities are.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not a fighter, man. No, that's not true. Kiryu is a badass fighter.
Well, ever not a fighter.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Anyway,
because
so the weapons.
There's the weapon shop guy that shows up, and it's just about every Yakuza game. He's kind of nice if you're into the weapon fighting thing to go to him, because he's the one that can build you new weapons. and each time you bring him a new product, and he'll say, "Hey, I'm looking for this," and then you can get like recipes for different weapons.
Mm,
That's what a lot of that junk that you pick up usually goes to.
okay.
Or like the paper plates that you keep getting, which he doesn't use, but you can always sell those, especially if you get like the silver and the gold plates. You can trade
Yeah.
those back to the thrift stores to get extra money,
Uh-huh.
to get other things like for jewelry for the girls that you want to
Right.
woo.
Right. Or more
Or
girls.
yeah, yeah, of course, get that big expensive purse by trading in some gold
Yes.
plates.
Yeah. I figured that was the only purpose for those plates was to
Yeah.
get money for them.
Yep.
There's one side mission, or maybe it's a story mission where you have to have a plate, but
Yeah. I don't remember if like was it in the first game? I know there's a side quest where there's a guy that's locked in a bathroom and he can't leave, and he asks for
Oh,
toilet
yes.
paper.
That was in this game, yes, and you had to
Okay,
go back,
so I
like,
remember
3
it.
times
To
to
Yep.
get him, and he wanted more and more paper tissues each time.
Yep.
that was so ridiculous.
It was kinda
There
And of
were
course,
a couple of there were a
it,
couple of missions where they made you just run around, it
yes,
seemed, back and forth just to have you run across the map.
yeah. The one thing I was disappointed in the Kiwami version, and I don't think it's going to change, was the in the arcades you could play some of the more infamous AM2 games that were developed for arcades, like Virtua Fighter 1. I think in Kiwami you only had the shoot 'em up game, the Block Seed, I think is what it was called.
I
I didn't
I
even
didn't even
look.
notice. I didn't even think you could play those. You can play some of that
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the arcade
that's
in the Club Sega?
yeah. In the Club Segas, there's a shoot 'em up called Block Seed. I want to say is what it was,
Really?
Block something, but it's a shoot 'em up. You have a little spaceship, and there's these polygonal designs that look like
Mhm.
other ships, and you have to keep shooting them. And then after you destroy it, you move on to the next stage. And then the whole purpose is just to get high scores. But
Mhm.
those high scores, I think, also have like online leaderboards. In later games, I think it was Yakuza 4 is where they started implementing and designing their own emulator in game. So you can go
Mhm.
back and play like Virtua Fighter, and then they continue that with Virtua Fighter 2 and later ones. 3TB is now available in the Pirates of Hawaii. And that story was kind of interesting to me because it was just one of the guys, one of the developers, who's like, I think this would be cool if we could get Virtua Fighter in there, because you advertise it in the arcades. If you know some of the posters on the wall, it has like Virtua Fighter 5. So they started making that available. So they have a ton of them in later games. Judgment is probably one of my favorites because it has Sonic the Fighters and Fighting Vipers, two arcades I actually own.
Ooh.
Fighting Vipers I unfortunately don't no longer have, but I have access to it.
Mhm.
And Sonic the Fighters. And Sonic the Fighters was kind of a joke game designed from Fighting Vipers. So they're all kind
Okay.
of tied together, and they were all under Yu Suzuki, um, who was head of AM2 department.
Yeah.
So there's that whole history in there, because I think you have Outrun and Space Harrier that make an appearance too in the arcade. And generally, when you see those are playable as well, so you can play
Yeah.
those games in it. The only downside is, like, if you're playing the fighting games, if you finish the game and you go back to play those, you can access them from the start menu, but they're only if you have a second player with you.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're in the game and you're still progressing through the story, you can play single player against the CPU.
Yeah.
But yeah, if spend more time in the arcade, you'd be surprised. Some of those games are playable, and then you have the UFO catchers, which are in the PS2 version.
Yeah.
And then the PS2, the UFO catchers, you can go to the attendant and say, "Hey, I want more toys in here." If you clean them out, or they'll swap them with different ones, which are kind of cool. So for like looking
Yeah.
little collectibles, I know in later games like Hatsune Miku makes a cameo appearance in some of the characters in the UFO catcher. You have your penguins and then your dogs and everything too, the bears. But yeah, that's one thing I would say that you probably missed out on if you weren't
Mhm.
aware of being able to play those games.
I
Well,
liked playing them in Shenmue.
Yes,
yeah.
and that's where the
Shenmue did a
idea
good
came
job.
from.
Yeah, that was neat.
Yeah,
I played
Space Harrier and Outrun.
Space Harrier now. Yeah. That was
Did
pretty
you
cool.
find the Saturn that was in the Hazuki house?
I can't remember if I did. I think I did. I probably had to look it up because I knew after 20 years, that the game had been out since
Yep.
I had heard about that over the 20 years. But yeah,
Yep.
that's cool. I like those kinds of touches.
Mhm.
Any other, like, missions you guys wanna talk about that or maybe like your favorite or that you hated, or maybe like a boss?
So I don't know if this is in Kiwami, but there's a section in this game that I absolutely just did not like at all. And it's when you're driving, when you have someone driving down the road and you have to shoot at people. And I'm like,
Yes.
in the PS2 version, it is so janky and like trying to aim is a pain. And I was just not having fun. I'm like, this is a beat 'em up game. This isn't a third person shooter. So like, um, yeah, I was not having a fun time with it. And it seems like that road goes on for a while. So it's like, I'm just sitting there just shooting the best I can, and it takes forever.
Yes, and it was after an already, like, intense fighting scene. Like
Yes.
like, there was no it was like, you started this mission a long time ago, and now you have this, and it's like, how long am I driving on here trying to shoot this? And am I gonna make it and not die? Because I can't do anything to increase my health. And if I do die, do I have to do the whole thing over again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a pain.
I would second that. That was a pain.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I did too, yeah, it was bad. The other one that was kind of annoying, and the only reason why it was easier for me was because I watched Eric play it first. But but it was, when you, are up on the roof to find your old friend Shinji, is that his name? And there's this one guy with guns, and he's, like, super fast and super quick, and he's doing little flips and all this stuff, and, like, you cannot and he just keeps shooting you, and like you cannot get to him. And so Eric had a stun gun, and he would stun him and then he could pound on him. And so that's how I did it too.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I had trouble with that guy, and I eventually, I just stunned him so he'd stop moving. I had a lot of trouble with the bullets with guns. I didn't have. There was maybe some equipment you could do or something, but one of those battles, I kept getting hit, and when you get hit, he falls to the ground. He rises around for like 3 or 4 seconds. You hit X, you pounding the X button. I'm gonna have to buy new controllers after this game. You're pounding the X button. He jumps up, and I get shot again, and I'm back on the ground. And it's like 90% of the time I'm on the ground, and I can barely get a hit in on this guy. So I use the stun. Yeah, I'm gonna second that one. I didn't like that one. That one got to me. Yeah, but
The
generally, yeah. Go ahead.
that fight's pretty annoying too. Um, Especially getting to him because I kind of got confused of like, where do I go? And like, do I have to jump across this building?
Mhm.
That was not fun. Another fight I didn't really particularly like was the final one because you're up on this roof and he has enemies just constantly coming and like I just want to get to this guy and just beat him up and
Mm.
like you have two other guys that are just like trying to get you and
Yeah,
targeting
yeah.
in this in the PS2 version is not very good at all. In fact, it's not pretty much non-existent. So you kind of have to like completely try to ignore them the best you can and just focus on the main bad guy that you're trying to beat up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one was pretty bad. And then too, now maybe this is in the PS2 version, but like when you're fighting them, the last one on the roof, they come back to life. Like you don't expect it.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yes.
they had like a second bar, and it was like, "Oh, come on." I thought I was like, finally. I thought I was finishing this other guy, and now these 2 come back.
Dirty
Yeah.
trick.
That happens in the PS2 version.
Mhm.
That's not fun.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. An unpleasant surprise.
But overall, I thought, there are some games where like this almost made me like stop playing the game. It was like so bad. But I didn't feel that, even though there was some annoying ones. I didn't feel like it had gone that far. Overall, it wasn't too bad. Like I don't know, beating the people up, and when you have heat and like do the final blows, it was very satisfying to see that in animation.
Should we talk about? I wanted to maybe talk a little bit about the art, graphics,
Mhm.
sound. Can I
And
just
then
segue into it?
yeah, go ahead.
So I had mentioned before that I was like blown away by this game and kept wondering what it looked like, what it would look like on the PS2. They really did. I thought this game looked amazing. Kamurocho, the city, the lights, especially at night, there were rain effects and the lights and just the liveliness of the city. There was constantly crowds of people running around. I thought the game looked gorgeous. The PS4 version was incredible. I can't even imagine how, I don't know what it looked like on the PS2, but they did a really good job upgrading it. I think for the PS4, I thought the city was incredible.
Well, and then the people too, right? The characters. I mean, you could see the pores on Kiru's face, right? You could see the ripples of his muscles, So the glistening of his skin after he had a big fight.
Yeah, that blew me away. Where he's like, you could see he's covered like in a sheen of sweat.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? Did you like the art style or the sound? Anything noteworthy to talk about?
Yeah, visually it looked really good, and I will say for the PlayStation 2, like this game visually I think still holds up pretty well. Now, of course, there's not it doesn't have the glistening of like the sweat on his body when you're beating someone up. But that being said, like it's a pretty good looking game. The only parts where it kind of looks a little ugly are like the NPCs, the people that you fight, but that's kind of to be expected for that generation. But other than that, the city looks good. Like Kiryu looks good. Majima looks pretty good. Like it's just a really impressive looking game for the PlayStation 2, and I believe this came out in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
I still think this game holds up today.
What do you think, TJ?
I mean, that's what got me hooked on you, because it was just the whole atmosphere. I mean, walking around that city. When I first played it, just walking down that main street, and especially in later games where you see the changes, because it's a constantly, just like in real life in Japan, it's constantly changing. Your bars will change, your stores will change. Especially if you guys move on to Kiwami 2, take notice of where the bars are or where you remember them being. They're likely not there anymore. It's replaced by something else. Even though everything looks similar, there's always changes. Especially going from Zero, because being that it takes place in the early 80s, it's dirty, it's dingy, there's trash everywhere. And then going to Kiwami 1, you notice it's cleaned up a little bit more. It's still kind of seedy, very dark, very dirty. The facial expressions in the PS2 always looked muddy to me, but that's just PS2 in general when looking at the faces. Movements are a little stiff here. They kind of smooth them out. They did change I think Kuze's one of them that changed big time, because he looks younger in the PS2 version. Whereas in the Kiwami version, they did the mocap with the actual voice actor. And it looks more like the voice actor, and he's older, noticeably. And I think they did that with a couple of the other bosses too, where they've changed facial expressions and how they look, either aged them or de-aged them a little bit. So, yeah, overall, I love the graphics they do and the engines and everything that they have for them.
The game looked really good. I thought it just looked really good, and especially in the Kiwami, and when you were fighting people, like, they'd like, it's a little graphic, but yeah, they'd show blood on his hands, because he's been in a big fight, or just like little details and stuff. It was really good. One thing that I noticed that I told Eric, and I thought this was weird. It's just a little quirky thing. When you walk around the city, did you ever notice like people are like practicing their golf swing? Like, I don't I don't know what that was, but it's just, it's just NPCs just practicing their golf swing. Like, hmm, okay. I
I
don't
never
know.
noticed.
Yeah, I don't know if why that was, but that was just something weird.
Yeah, if you look, a lot of the NPCs are always doing something. Some of them are staring somewhere, or they're fumbling around. You run into drunks. I think it just adds to the atmosphere,
hmm
makes it more lively.
hmm
You see goofy stuff.
Yeah.
So in Kiwami, is there a lot of swearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the PS2 English version, there is a ton of swearing to the
Oh
point
yeah.
where I was like, man, this is a vulgar game.
I would say that there's not as many F-bombs as the PS2 version has. I know there's a lot of side quests that drop F-bombs constantly because they try to be GTA. But they're not as frequent in the Kiwami versions. So I can say that.
But there's like even like I remember in one of the later fights, like you have like 3 or 4 guys and they each say something to you. Like, and it's pretty vulgar. So I won't like they each say it. And I was like, dang, like they're each like going after him. So
But it's all in Japanese,
Yeah,
right? The only way you
well, yeah,
know
but
that it's the
I
person.
read it. Like,
That's
you
what
know,
I'm saying is you have
yeah.
to read the subtitle.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm disappointed because of all the cursing that is in there. I couldn't actually end up picking out the curse words. I didn't learn any Japanese curse words by playing the game. So maybe, well, now I got to play the others. I'm gonna get a curse word out of one of these games. Okay, but yeah, there's definitely some F-bombs in there.
there's a ton of them in the PS2 version. It is kind of funny hearing Mark Hamill be Majima. He seems like he's having a good time on the role, just being this goofy guy, just kind of crazy, you know.
You're
It's
making me
pretty funny.
want this.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
know. Oh, we're gonna have to like look up
I'm gonna go on
some
Amazon right
Mark Hamill
now.
stuff. But
There's-
You told me about it weeks ago, and I was like, we'll see. But now I didn't know about the Mark Hamill, and I didn't realize the English language thing, and so
I will say though, for the English version, they keep the honorifics, and what that is basically, if you listen to the Japanese version, they'll say Kiryu-chan, Kiryu-chan, or stuff like that. So you will hear that in the English version. So you'll hear Mark Hamill be like, "Kiryu-chan, what's up?" And it's just it may throw people off because English speakers just don't use honorifics, but it's still kind of funny.
there are some YouTube videos of Mark Hamill in the recruiting studio playing Majima.
Oh,
So
is
I
there?
would look those up. They're
Oh, I
kind of
got it.
funny.
yeah, that's
I
they-
love this so much. This
They
Mark
interview
Hamill.
him, I believe, too, in the behind the scenes. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was like a bonus disc or something, but they had to get those videos from somewhere. But I've run across them on YouTube, and I was like, where was that disc? Because I don't believe it was in the PS2 version.
No, I didn't get a bonus disc.
yeah. I think Majima was like my favorite character. He's just like so funny. Like the two of them talking and some of the side stories and stuff
Mhm.
is just so funny. And he's just so crazy. And you don't know at one point Kiru says like I can't get a read on you, and it's so true. Like you can't get a read on him. It's like, wait, is he being nice or is he not being nice? Like, and why was he nice there? So, but he was a good addition. I liked it.
I'm jumping ahead, but I would definitely recommend you play Yakuza 0 because it explains Majima and the way he is.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we do maybe final thoughts and if you guys recommend it and like which version would you play and uh Chip, why don't you start and then tell us which one are you liking better so far? Like I know you haven't finished Kiwami yet, but
So yeah, I am pretty early on in Kiwami. I'm only maybe 2 chapters deep into it, but I'm enjoying it so far. I like the leveling up system. It's got the sphere grid compared to just spending points to have a bar go across and then you get a level up. I think that's great. Reminds me of Final Fantasy X, where it has the sphere grid, which
Yeah.
the
oh my
Cartridge
gosh, I
Club,
said that exact same thing to Eric when he was
which
first playing it.
which I'm saying to the Cartridge Club gods, please do Final Fantasy X. That'd be great.
Okay. Yeah.
So I like that. I like the different styles of fighting. I think that makes it more unique compared to just mashing the same button over and over again in the PS2 version. Now, granted, the PS2 version is still pretty fun, but the Kiwami does have a lot of improvements, specifically with targeting a specific opponent that you're trying to fight. Because in the PS2 version, it's very clunky in that sense, and the camera and the fighting can be a little jank, so you might get some unfair hits. So there's a lot of quality of life improvements with Kiwami that I'm enjoying. as far as recommending one or the other, I would say the original Yakuza game is worth checking out, especially because like they make brand new copies to this day. So it's like you know it's not like it's hard to find. I believe though there are HD remasters of this game for different consoles. Like I believe they remastered 1 and 2 for the Wii U, but that's Japan only. So if you're into importing, you can get it through there.
It's also on the PlayStation 3,
Okay.
Japan only.
Okay. And I believe Zero was Japan only, right? For PS3?
Yes, I want to say
Okay.
that's right.
Okay. But yeah, I really liked Yakuza. I thought it had a good story. I thought Kiryu is a very interesting character. I would say so far, Yakuza Kiwami, I would give like an 8. Uh, just from what I played, and then the original Yakuza, I would actually give that a 7 out of 10. It's a solid game. There's a lot of things that are kind of annoying, but it's got a good story. The dub is pretty funny, and it's just for a PS2 game. It's so like open. Like you can do a lot in this game.
I agree with a lot with what Chip said. Although for me, I would highly recommend the Kiwami version over the PS2. The PS2 is much more of a special interest in a sense. If you do want to hear it dubbed in English, to hear Mark Hamill's performance and some of the other voice actors. But as far as the story, if you really want the full picture, the extra details, the extra side quests, the Majima Anywhere, definitely go the Kiwami way, especially with the quality of life improvements that they made over it. Overall, I'm going to stick with what Chip said: 7 for the PS2 version, 8 for the Kiwami version. Oh, the music too. I don't think we brought that up. There is music differences between the PS2 and the Kiwami version. I think the main titles, main theme songs, and some of the battle songs are different.
I've now added Yakuza PS2 to my Amazon wish list, and Christmas is coming. I don't know if that's the thing, but I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I'm really glad to have played it. There were a couple of things I didn't like about it. I found some of the controls frustrating, especially when you get knocked down. You got to pound the X key or whatever. I found that and there were periods of time where, specifically with Majima, he was animating a very long attack, and I just felt like nothing I did could get out of that. And so that's frustrating to me. I don't enjoy that kind of thing. I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. I really, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm very much looking forward to. I do own many of the other games in the series. We're going to hopefully talk about some of those, and I do intend to try to continue to go through them. So I highly recommend certainly the Kiwami version. It's beautiful. It's a lot of fun to play. There's a lot to do in it, and your main character Kiryu he is a he is a badass character. He is a lot of fun to play. So yeah, recommended. Definitely one of my favorites in recent memory.
I only played Kiwami. I thoroughly recommend this game as well. Like I said, I was not really looking forward to this game. I was like, I don't think I can play this one this time. I don't know if I'm going to be on the podcast with you because this isn't really my kind of game. And then when I started playing it, I was addicted. Like I wanted to play it every chance I got. And I started late, and because this game is so large, because it's so open, which is part of the appeal to the game, I this week especially I put everything else aside, and I basically played it for like 3 days out of the 5 days this week straight, like all day long. So and I didn't even I got to, I think 70% was my completion. So there's still 30% of the game that I can go back and play. And it is good. Kiru, like you guys said, Kiru is a badass, and it is very satisfying watching him kick people's butt all over town. So I definitely would recommend playing this. And you don't have to, do 70%. You can just do the main missions, do a few side missions, and you will thoroughly enjoy yourself. And I'll probably say I think I'll give it a 9 as well.
That being said, though, TJ, I have a question for you because you said in our chat that you have the movie for this game. Do you
wanna get into
recommend
that?
that?
I would recommend the movie only if you've played the first game, simply because there's a lot of stuff missing from the movie that don't explain stuff, like Kiryu and Haruka. He just kind of randomly runs into her looking for Yumi. There's a lot of stuff that's missed. Like Nishiki doesn't show up until the very end of the movie, and that's probably like one of the best battles in the entire movie. And it's like it just all of a sudden you're at the Millennium Tower, you're fighting over this money. Why? And none of that is explained any of their background because they all assume you've played the game, you know the background, you know they were brothers. Well, not blood brothers, but brothers because they grew up in the same orphanage. But that was it. It's like Majima just keeps showing up after he hears he's out of jail. There's no explanation why, other than there's a mention in the first fight they have is he says, "Oh, is this over what happened 10 years ago?" No context, no information other than that. They start fighting. He keeps going after Kiryu again. And Haruka is just like, I just want to find my mom. And there's no explanation of who Yumi is, what the connection is between him, Nishiki, and Yumi, what the background is, and any of that. Dante's off fighting a bank robber for some reason, and that goes throughout the entire movie. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? And it doesn't make a lot of sense. There's great scenes, but it's mostly between Majima and Kiryu, and then the end scene. When and it, there's nothing to do with the game, which I think is the oddest part. Stamina X makes an appearance at the end, and you see Stamina X in like refrigerators and stuff. And you see him do the heat moves towards a bunch of punks in the one store that's in the game. That's about it. So it is available on YouTube. You could probably find it. Is it worth buying the movie for? If you find it cheap for $10, sure, it's an oddity. But otherwise, I would also recommend the TV series that's on Amazon Prime because that explains the connection between Yumi, Nishiki, and Kiryu and how they met Kazuma, who becomes their adoptive father and gets them into the Tojo clan, even though he's against it. And the reason for Kiryu's involvement in the clan and why he wants to prove himself. That gives you much more background, and then they introduce some of the bosses you fight in the Kiwami game. And then you find out, like, you meet Dojima. And then the dub version of English, too, which I find interesting, is Johnny Young Bosch voices Nishiki, who Johnny Young Bosch also plays another character later on in Like a Dragon. I won't spoil who, but it's kind of interesting to see those roles. But I would recommend the TV series over the movie. The movie's great. I shared the clips of Majima in our Discord chat. I would say watch those. You're perfectly fine.
I'm looking forward to. I didn't know about this until you mentioned the TV series, and
Yep.
I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, I mean, I have the DVD of Yakuza Like a Dragon. And even the backside says Kazuma Kiryu, once one of the most fearsome Yakuza and known as the Dragon of the Dojima family, comes back to Kamurocho, which is spelled incorrectly. After a 10-year jail sentence, his return means many things to many different people, but to one girl, it means she may have a chance of finding her mother. To one of Kazuma's Yakuza friends, however, it means a chance to settle a score, which, again, there's no context. Obviously, it's Majima. And then a special feature is the original Yakuza trailer for the game. So it's produced and published by JC Entertainment with Sega. It's not rated. It's about a little over an hour long. So it's a short movie. I mean, my favorite scenes, of course, was the battles with Majima and they're the Soapland Hotel. So that's kind of a scene if you remember that from the Yakuza games. So that does happen. The batting cage brawl does happen in the movie, which is probably one of my favorite scenes. So yeah, it's an oddity, but if you haven't played the game, it would make no sense.
Interesting.
So what about the other games? There are 7 numbered games,
More than
0
that.
through 6, right?
There's technically more than that because there's the main arc, which is Kiryu's arc 0 through 6, and then it starts into Like a Dragon, which Sega's been trying to pivot away from the Yakuza name just because of the bad reputation Yakuzas have had, and Japan's cutting down on that. But if you count those, because Kiryu does still appear in Like a Dragon, and it kind of continues his story, even though he's no longer the main character. So you have Like a Dragon, technically 7, 8, Gaiden, which also it takes place between Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and explains where Kiryu has been between that time. Gaiden's probably one of my favorites just because of that. It adds more elements to things. And then you have the new one, Yakuza in Hawaii, which is all about Majima. You play as Majima, he's the main role. And that takes place also just after Infinite Wealth. And that's the latest one. And then they did just announce Yakuza 3 Director's Cut, or Kiwami, Yakuza 3 Kiwami, which adds another 30 minutes worth of content from the original.
Nice. Okay, so let me make sure I understand the because I have my eye on the Like a Dragon. The Like a Dragon are those are actually a continuation of the main line. They're not spinoffs.
Yes. They're not spinoffs. They are part of the main line. They do change it from a brawler to an RPG.
Yes.
So that is a big difference that they changed. Gaiden plays back with the original brawler style. So does Yakuza in Hawaii. But if you enjoy Final Fantasy or Persona, is what it's most similar to, you'll like a Dragon. It makes it very fun as a turn-based RPG.
Is it good?
But yeah. Infinite Wealth would be like number 9, right? And you wouldn't be able to play that until you play 2 through 8.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Infinite Wealth is after the original Like a Dragon. So yeah, technically it is the 9th one in. If you're going in line, because Gaiden technically was supposed to be part of Like a Dragon, but they cut it at the last minute to save time so they could get the game out quicker, and then they made it its own game. Gaiden is a little shorter, but like I said, it does take place between 6 and Like a Dragon.
Okay.
Now there's one called Ishin.
Ishin is a spin-off.
That's a spin-off. Okay.
Yeah. And I find it funny. There's actually 4 spin-off games. There was 2 PSP games that were only in Japan. We still haven't gotten those yet.
Mm-hmm.
And those had nothing to do with Kiryu, but it was the Tojo clan and some other members. There's also the Judgment games, which take place between Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and technically part of 6. Because one of the characters is from an ex-Tojo clan member. And it involves a lot of the Tojo clan information. It's kind of towards the end of. I can't really go into detail without spoiling things of what happens between 5, 6, and Like a Dragon, because there's a big event that happens that affects everything going forward. And why Kiryu is starting to be pushed off to the side.
No spoilers on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't give them away because they're big ones. It still makes me tear up, but we'll say that.
Do you recommend the Judgment games?
They are fun. I do enjoy them because it's a different pace. Simply, it has all the same thing. You're still walking through the different towns that you end up in future Yakuza games, because they move away from Kamurocho eventually.
Yeah.
So you get to explore new cities. You still get to walk around. There's still side quests. They're like Yakuza, but you're also a detective. So there's a big scene because he was an ex-lawyer. So you're still working at the lawyer department and some of his friends. But you go to a crime scene. You're able to look around for clues, put things together. You build up your repertoire to find the perpetrator, and you present it to the lawyer's office at the end to close the case. So there are ties. There's some familiar characters you come across from the original Yakuza games, some of the newer ones. So yeah, I would say they're worth looking into, but it's not something if you want the main story to go to right away. I would say if you finished Like a Dragon, then go back and play Judgment, and then play Gaiden, and then go into Infinite Wealth. There's another spin-off game on the PS3 that's exclusive. We haven't gotten an HD remaster of, which is an odd one. It's called Yakuza of the Dead, or Dead Souls.
Oh yeah.
It's a 3D shooter in Kamurocho where they had a zombie apocalypse, and you
Yeah.
play from you Majima's in it, of course, but there's characters from Yakuza 2 and Yakuza 4, or 3 and 4, mostly 4 if I recall.
Okay.
It's been a while since I played it. That one is definitely a spin-off. In fact, Ishin and Dead Souls, Kiryu in later games admits that they were fever dreams. There's actually, I think it's in Infinite Wealth, where they're asking Kiryu about kind of his past, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I had these weird dreams. One where there's a zombie apocalypse, another one I was the samurai." Ishin is a fun game. It's not a Yakuza game. A lot of the same characters from Yakuza 1 and 2 are in Ishin, but it's a retelling of a famous samurai that was in Japan. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But it's very much it's a weapons-based brawler.
So there's lots of content. There's lots more Yakuza games out there.
Yep.
Are we going to play them all?
Are we? I doubt it.
Yeah. I know.
I was
I'd like to, but
Yeah.
I've still got a whole bunch of stuff to play.
It takes me about a month and a half to get through one Yakuza game because I've dumped 80 to 90 hours in one game.
Yeah.
We
Well,
weren't
did
quite that
50,
far.
I did
Go ahead.
50.
Yeah. I spent 50 hours on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Like a Dragon, I spent nearly 90 to 100 hours in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about now, Chip? Have you played any of the others?
Nope. I've only played the first Yakuza game, and now I'm playing Kiwami, and that's it.
Okay.
Do you think you'll go on and play others?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I would.
Maybe this will
Alright.
be November's game of the month. We'll just do 2 next November, 3 the following November.
Yeah.
It'll be Yakuza will be November will be Yakuza month.
Who knows? They'll just be making more, and it just we're an infinite cycle of Yakuza games.
I was going to say, where do you think you'll go next? Will you go to Kiwami or Yakuza 2, or will you go to 0?
So someone, I actually asked this in a Facebook group when I was playing the first game. Someone recommended play 2, the original 2 after that,
Mm-hmm.
and then before going into Kiwami to play 0, and then go Kiwami 1, 2, 3, and then onward. But I'm kind of breaking that rule because I'm playing Kiwami 1, so
What do you think,
Interesting.
TJ?
Just because the Kiwami stories build on each other, I would recommend that way. It's easier to get a hold of the Kiwami games than it is the PS2 ones.
Yeah.
That would be my only recommendation. If you're starting from scratch, get Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. They are discontinuing the original version of Yakuza 0. I don't know from what I've heard, there's not really a big difference in Director's Cut. Like I said, there's only like an extra 30 minutes worth of content in Director's Cut, but there may be some extra stuff. I haven't gotten a hold of a copy yet since I think it's coming out, or it's come out on Switch 2. I know that, but the PS5 version and the Xbox Series X versions are coming out later. I think either the end of this month or January. It's soon.
Okay. And
I might be
Yakuza
wrong.
0 Director's Cut.
Director's Cut.
Okay.
They changed because when they came out with 0 after, because it was originally, I played original 4, 5, and then went back and played Kiwami 1, 2, 3, and then 6. They changed a lot to make things kind of seamlessly with 0. So if you're starting, I would say definitely do the Director's Cut and just start with 0 and go up. If you're continuing with 1, do 2, go back to 0. That'll tie everything together because you'll meet all the familiar faces you fought in 1 and 2. And it'll start giving you a bigger picture of everything that's happening. There's a lot more politics involved than people realize. Because Yakuza 1 introduces you into this big mess. And because of that big mess, it leads into 2, and it starts kind of a domino effect for stuff that are happening in the background that you don't really get information from until you get into 5 and 6.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
So that is going to do it for this episode of the Cartridge Club Game of the Month podcast. Let's quickly mention a few of our upcoming games. In December, we're playing arcade hit turned NES favorite Jackal. The following month, the QDawgs are returning to host January, where we survey the superscalar games of renowned Sega designer Yu Suzuki. Finally, FPS February is back, and the club Patreons have chosen Cyberpunk 2077. Again, if you'd like to get involved with the club, I'd encourage you to follow us on X, formerly Twitter, or Blue Sky at Cartridge Club NA. You can also visit our Discord for all kinds of discussion about past, present, and future games of the month. To those of you interested in supporting the club beyond a review on the podcast app of your choice, I'd like to mention that the club is entirely funded by pledges made from members of our community. We are extremely grateful to those supporters, and if you're interested in becoming one of them, please look into how you can do that at patreon.com/Cartridge Club. Chip, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
You can find me on YouTube at JChipShow. I review a lot of video games, anime. I also do an unboxing every month for Video Games Monthly. As far as other platforms you can find me, I'm on Twitter or X. I prefer to call it Twitter, but you do you. I am also on Blue Sky. I have an Instagram, but I am very inactive on there. And I'm also pretty active in the Discord. So, yeah.
Okay, and TJ, where can we find you?
Also on YouTube under TJ Kitsune. I do various pickups. I also show up some of my collections. I gush about Yakuza there as well as some other Sega related stuff. I'm also on X as well, same name, TJ Kitsune. There I kind of talk about whatever new projects or hobbies I'm doing. Lately, I've been getting into a lot of Gundam. Also, most of my arcade stuff is on my X account. I recently, last 2 years, I imported a Sega arcade cabinet, and I've been messing around and streaming with that. So
Nice.
it's been my life goal to get one of those, and I have it finally. So I do a lot of stuff with it. I'm on Instagram. That's where I show some of my Sonic stuff. Also advertise a lot for whatever else I'm doing. And then on Discord, you can see me in the Cartridge Club server if you need me, or any other Sega related servers.
Okay, well, you can find me and Melissa, and on YouTube we have a channel called the Mighty QDawg channel. It's DAWG. That's how it's always spelled. You also can find us both on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm Mighty QDawg, and Melissa is Mrs. QDawg. And you should be able to find us in the Cartridge Club Discord too, which is where you can get lots of great discussion about all Cartridge Club games and things like that.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us here. To everyone listening, we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for joining us. CC Unite.